Hi, welcome to the Franco Podcast. My name is Francisco Ramirez. I'm excited about bringing this podcast because we are going to be talking about design, architectural design, artists, celebrities, interviewing different types of people. But what's special about the sauce in Franco Design is about how we want to serve and lead with purpose, right? We want to design a life that's going to lead something that's going to last. So in those conversations, we bring you Franco Podcast. Today we have our first guest, and his name is Joe Procida. He's an Italian friend of mine I've met recently here in Miami, and I'm just going to be thrilled about some of the takeaways I've learned in getting to know him. And so I'm going to kick it off. Joe, I'm so thrilled you're here, man. I mean, I can't talk about how we've just met, intermingled, and passing, and how this has become even a friendship. I want to kick it off that you are amazing maitre d' for a high end, very recognizable restaurant here in Miami, but you're more than that. I'd love to just ask you how your story is. What's your story? How'd you get to Miami? What brought you here?
I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, first off, I'm very glad to be here. As you know, our interactions kind of fuel both of us. Every time I see you, we're both smiling. Every time we leave each other, we're smiling bigger.
Right.
So for me, that's kind of how we drew together. And what ended up bringing me into Miami, into the neighborhood that we are together and we see each other all the time, is for the restaurant that I work for. I've worked for them in a couple different markets. Hospitality is something I really believe in. I feel that as a business, and as restaurants and these places that get to take care of people, it's a business, but the soul of it is people and hosting people and making them feel special. And to me, hospitality as a business and hospitality as a lifestyle, the lines are pretty blurred for me. It's one thing,
Yeah.
So taking care of people is wonderful. Making sure that when you welcome them, they feel great. But I think in life, people need that. People need to be greeted. I think that when you see people and you smile on them and you see the best in them and you don't dwell on what any of their flaws or shortcomings may be, you create a space where they can be their very best version. And so you almost, by the way you treat people, the room you create for people to exist in, gives you that level version of them. So often people who are close to people, I think, miss out on the best of them because they see them how they were, not in the person that they want to become.
Mm.
And as a stranger, I get to see people as they want to become, and I ask them who they are, and I see who they are, and I revel in it, and I enjoy it, and then it allows them to be more who they are. And I think also for myself, not taking myself too serious, being okay,
Right.
being a blubbering idiot from time to time.
Dude, that's awesome. That's awesome. And that's pretty much the genesis of how I would see you in passing. I came to the restaurant. You were an amazing host, right? You just made it very comfortable, and you were very genuine. And I just couldn't believe, like, wow, this guy's energy and his positivity is just, infectious. And then I'd see you in passing, right? I'd be at a cafe, or you'd be, running around, and I'd see you. And the same thing in the mornings, maybe as you're walking around, or maybe after a workout or whatever. And the same thing, I was just like, is this guy for real, man? This guy has so much nuggets, and he's always just sharing of himself, and there's always something good coming out of it, and I'd see you in all different capacities, maybe after I was there on a Friday, Saturday night, and I'm just meeting another friend, and I'm there again, and we're sharing some deep stuff, and you drop in and you start talking to us. But the big question was like, where do you tap in for all this? How do you get this? How do you weave in today's world, right, where you're meeting all different types of, celebrities, celebrations, people, all walks of life. Maybe sometimes they're happy, maybe they're not. You're seeing it all. And how do you navigate? I know it's tough for me in just the business world to navigate, as a Christian guy,
Mm-hmm.
to navigate through that sometimes. And we haven't even tapped into the distractions, right? We're talking about the anxiety, and we're talking about how you navigate through this, and that positivity. How do you do that? What do you tap into? I want to see
Sure.
if you can give me some of that.
Yeah, so I don't wake up the way you see me. I dream intensely. I wake up with worries and fears just like anyone else. Not always, but sometimes when I do, it's heavy on me.
Mm.
And it's, I think, not running from that. Realizing that true joy is not anchored in happiness per se or sunshine and rainbows. True joy exists regardless if they do or not, because you don't need a thing to experience the bliss of the Holy Spirit.
Wow.
And for me, it's not in the absence of these things, but it's because there's so many things that can bring you down or let you know you're inadequate or you're not enough or you'll be complete if this, that if you listen to that, you'll be owned by that. So what I do isn't like, it's not because I guess it's either positivity or a deep abyss, where you're not anchored to anything.
Wow.
So when I wake up, I realize that my creator created me in his image and likeness and with free will. Like, how benevolent of him. A creator, my God, who can smite me at a moment's notice, lets me live, even though he's given me the tools and the instruction to live a godly life, and I fall short always. He still embraces me and gives me the ability to be better and to serve his children better. So I think we, get owned by negativity. I think the thing about negativity is it's so strong even when it's not activated. Negativity is passively dangerous.
Wow.
People just wake up and they feel it, and then they meet other people who are negative. So it's just, everyone's just deciding that, it's not even a choice, actually. They're not deciding. They're just being negative because it feels like autopilot. It feels like almost like cynicism gives you control. But really what you're doing with your words and your feelings is you're perpetuating the situation that you're in that you do not love. So I think that those of us who choose to be positive have to know that positivity must be active. Positivity must not be quiet. Positivity is not weak. Positivity is not just kindness. Sometimes positivity is a real word to someone who's not ready for it. Um, but also, what I'm tapped into requires me to have grace. So it's like I get beat up by my things, and then I must have joy because it's like I'm closer to that lesson. So I think we want to think that only the things that feel good are blessings. But my God has a purpose and a path for me that's not just for me, but it's for all of his children. Things that I must do that I will never see the result of, but I get to because all that was already done for me. So I guess that, like, I wake up, and on the days that I feel negative or I feel the burden of life, I hurry up and get outside to the sunshine, to nature, to all this evidence of what God created that seems so perfect and so ethereal. And and again, like, if he did all this for them, what did he do for us? His favorites, So I guess realizing that if you don't feel great, that's okay. Maybe it's pulling your attention to something you're supposed to see. So I think knowing that you are a vessel for the Lord's blessing, the person, the source in which you were created, and he made you specifically for something, that all the pain until you get there is just a ticket to the show. And it's the context that you process it and that you share it with people. It's like when I smile, people feel that positivity, but it's not just because I'm in denial about the negativity. It's that negativity exists so heavily and so densely in this world we live in the society we live in, and especially a material driven town like Miami, that those of us who have an inkling for positivity, we must really, really lean into it, and we must tap into each other to inspire it.
Wow.
you know?
Dude, that is phenomenal. Everything you said, I'm at the edge of my seat, man. Thank you for that.
Of course, brother.
That's what drew me to you, because I felt that how genuine you were. And what was even a bigger draw was the more we got to know each other. I didn't know this, but you were a man of faith, and I was like, you just never know,
Sure.
right? I all types of. Sometimes I'm like, do I live out my brand of my belief? And sometimes I feel very short of that. Someone might say, "Oh, you're a believer," or you believe you're a Christian," or you. I'm like, man, I'm not doing a very good job, but I don't know what that's supposed to look like. Hence, I get to talk to you. How do you deal with your job and your everyday when someone's, guest wise or even suiting up? Let's go there.
Sure.
How do you suit up for this? Your day. And I know you told me nature and all that.
Yeah.
But is there something you tap into? I know for me, it's I have to have devotional time. People
For
might
sure.
call that meditation, or it could be both. But it's my prayer time. It's my tap in with God. It's my priming with my Bible. It's like learning, tapping into my belief system with the Creator. That's for me.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't want to lead the witness here. But
Yeah.
what do you do?
So for me, I start with gratitude, and I like to approach God with obviously reverence, but very much a familiarity.
Mm.
Yesterday, I was in a place and someone asked if I was a believer, and I got a big cheese on my face, and I said, a believer? Oh, do you believe in God? I said, believe in him. I said, he's my favorite. He's my best friend. That's the one. That's who I follow. And, not only do I follow him, but I have relationship with him. And, it's a blessing that I get to. So it's like, and I can't really mention his name without welling up a little, because for me, it's so personal, and I think that's what a lot of us, so I consider myself early in my friendship with the Lord, not early in believing, but early in my walk. So moving through the world, it's like, it's an interesting thing. Like, how do we represent our kingdom beliefs as sinners, as regular people in this world, and do him justice?
Yeah.
And so I've always had his name in my heart. My mother, my grandmother, all very close with Jesus, always all prayer warriors. But I was living kind of wild when I was younger, and I didn't feel like I was a good representative of him. Now, fast forward, and I'm living more godly for sure. But still, I don't have scriptures memorized. I can paraphrase them because I read daily. For me,
Yeah.
like you said, what am I
Me
rooted
too.
in?
Yeah.
Devotionals are really wonderful. I think in conjunction with a Bible, I think the devotionals are easy to digest when you're not used to reading the Bible. And when I say not used to, I mean even when you're dabbling a little, it is what a work,
Right.
and not even all of the word of Lord of our Creator in it, and those who experience Jesus and all these things, but just from like a literary, the size of it and the language, and approaching, it's very intimidating to the point where people will have a Bible and not even crack it open for maybe a decade.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
think that's the walk too. But for me, I love the idea of devotionals. Me and my wife have a devotional based on love and romance. We have another one, and then those tie us into scriptures that will then go into the Bible. So you can read straight through, but for me, it's hitting it in different moments. If something was inspired, but the Bible is really important, even if you're not absorbing. Read it. Read it aloud.
Right.
If you have a partner or a friend who you're walking through this journey with, read it with them. The more you read, the more you digest his word, and this nutrient dense food that will change your whole life.
Right.
He uses it. The more you're focused on him, the more you see that he's always been focused on you.
Wow.
It's someone said yesterday, or the person I ran into, that we were in a shop, a boutique shop that my wife was shopping at, and I was sitting down in the men boyfriend, father, uncle seat while the lady shop. And the woman was telling me these things, that she had seen some things. And, and I told her my idea of God is that you can't be late because he knows your timing.
Mm.
He's just waiting for you to know. He knows everything about you. He's in love with you. He created you perfectly the way he wanted to, and then gave you free will.
Wow.
So you could ruin it all. But I say that lightly, but he wants us to experience what it's like to be human, to be flawed, and to be imperfect, and do nothing to deserve his love, but have it all. And that's the thing is, a lot of time when people get on this path, they start to judge themselves more harsh.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, don't. He knows your heart.
Right.
El Ra, he sees you. One of his names is he literally sees you. He knows who you are in a way more than you possibly can, because we are, as human beings, we're created with judgment, shame, and guilt. And the more I realize the program, the more I lean into what he wants from me, the more I realize that to feel these things is blaspheme and sacrilege. His only son, his human form, was tortured and murdered and got the worst of it all, so we wouldn't have to.
Wow.
So where does my positivity come from? It comes from the fact that I am created as a special reflection of the one who created it all. So if I need validation, where would I go besides him? And my creation is the validation. He made me this way, and I get to explore it, the good, the bad, the ugly. And if I get to process these things and know that even just being alive to be able to receive this pain and torture and oppression and life so tough, my ticket to the show allows me to feel that. So it's like I think we've got it wrong. I think we think everything's supposed to feel good, but that which makes us feel good does not challenge us, does not prepare us, does not bring value to others. So I know what it feels like to feel good, and I appreciate that, and I can smile because of that. But I can't feel the warmth of the sunshine basking on my skin if I haven't felt what the bitter cold feels like, if I haven't felt what a rainstorm once I locked my keys in the house feels like. Right. So it's like the getting beat up allows you the gratitude for the peace and joy.
Amen to that, man. Wow. Man, amazing, Joe. Thank you so much for
Of course,
that.
brother.
Let me take it back a little
Yeah.
step further, because that was pretty amazing. And I'm thinking to myself as you're sharing that, I'm like, where did this guy Joe come from?
Yeah.
Right. I believe you're originally from Chicago, right, or
So
something like
from
that.
New York, from
okay.
upstate New York. I worked with the restaurant group, the brand I'm with, in Chicago. Worked with them in Scottsdale, Arizona, and then I moved here to work with them here. So upstate New York is where I grew up, being verbally abused by all my cousins who lived in the city and Long Island.
Okay.
So the geographical arrogance of New Yorkers and the idea that upstate New York is a province of Canada or Maine. But yeah, so I say all that to say everything's created me the way I am. I grew up in a family, big Italian family, a lot of cousins, a lot of just love and hardworking people who definitely love to celebrate that which they come from. Really appreciative of the struggle and the wins. Never really, not big complainers.
Right.
Just like trying to see the best in things. But yeah, so I'd say from just a family that hospitality was a big part of, and not like hospitality in business, but just the way you treated people. My
Mindset.
grandfather would shovel driveways of the elderly and people who needed in the neighborhood. If there was somebody who didn't have a place to go on a holiday, they'd be at our house. So just, I would say, just a lot of love, a lot of familial love, a lot of joking, a lot of laughing, not taking yourself too serious.
Right.
Um, and then also, going through real family stuff, within all that love, um, a lot of expectation. I was a product of an early divorce, that wasn't particularly like amiable. Two people who were very strong headed. And really, I look at my brother and myself as a product of that. So there's no mistakes, and it's easy to look at your parents and say, oh, how could you have done this? But,
Right.
hindsight is 2020,
Right.
how wonderful
Right.
that the product of two people 20 years later can complain about all they didn't do, but as not a father, I can't imagine what it's like to be so selfless, to have a child
Mm.
and to do all these things when you're 20, 22.
Right.
So I guess the good, the bad, in between, being a very vocal, verbal kid, had a lot of questions, very curious. I think my parents loved my sense of humor. I'm sure they enjoyed my curiosity a little less. Like, you have to have the answers for a
Right.
kid
Right.
who's like pulling these questions obscurely out of nowhere, like, what's the meaning of life? I remember I had a confirmation, and the next day, my dad, he's an amazing cook, and he created all these dishes. We had the house filled with our guests, and they were in our bedroom, so my grandparents could be in their bedroom. So I was like on the floor in a sleeping bag, and it's like midnight, and I said to my father, I don't know if I really am ready for confirmation. And he's like, amazing. He's like, this is great timing. I'm so glad that we have 40 guests in the house, and
Right.
all these things. So um I was very analytical, had a lot of questions, wasn't as much as I was like, had a huge imagination and a lot of creativity. I also came from people that were joyous, but also a little bit cynical. My grandmother came, she existed in the Great Depression. So
Wow.
I think that is always going to be passed down a little to your kids. And then again, to us, the idea of almost like it's practical to worry.
Mm.
You don't know what's going to happen next. Be careful.
Right.
But that doesn't resonate with me.
Right.
It'll eat me alive.
Yeah.
So I think the idea of, and again, everyone operates differently. We come from, even those that you share a genetic code with. It's like just a reference point. We all have our different fears and things that motivate us. How we move in the world outside of our home. I was a curious kid, cracking jokes all the time, kind of a class clown, a little bit performative, um, and there were times I had a lot of sadness too, and I
Really.
think that's the thing too, is to realize that positivity is not absence of sadness. It's the idea that if I'm not in control of this thing, it'll swallow me.
Mm.
So I don't think positivity is like your blinders on from reality. I think it's seeing what reality is and knowing that if you're not actively pursuing a way to see the good in something, or what you can learn from this in order to be more prepared for things in the future to attract and soak that goodness out of,
Right.
then you're at a disadvantage.
Wow.
So I think the idea of having time with just the Lord, even my partner, my wife, who loves me so deeply and cares for me so much, she has her worries and fears. So before I even tap in with her, I want to talk to my father. I want to
Yeah.
I want to make sure that me and him speak first, and I'm available. So when my wife hits me with way more than I can handle 15 minutes after I wake up, I have something to give her.
Right.
You know?
Right. Well, it sounds like you came from a great community of family,
Yeah,
a very supportive, which is fantastic.
for sure.
So maybe not everybody has that that's probably
No.
listening to this. And so I find myself unique, so I can identify with that.
Yeah.
But then let's fast forward. You come to Miami, whether you went to other
Yeah.
places. Miami is just it can be a cultural shock for people.
Yeah,
I mean, it's an amazing place. It's a beautiful place. It's got a lot of glitz and glamour.
for sure.
But there's an underlining that could be, a bad spot, a bad place, or bad people. But I believe there's a lot of good people here
For
too.
sure.
That just so tell me a little bit about your adjustment or what your expectations were coming to Miami. How do you navigate through what's Miami for you, or good or bad, or
Yeah,
home or not home, or maybe
for sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
all that.
so for me, wherever I rest my head at is home. Um, and Miami, obviously, I think it all depends what you are and what you want from it.
Hmm.
I think Miami there's a lot of things. There's the wildness, there's the all night, they say New York never sleeps, but like Miami, there's not just something you can do late night, there's always something amazing you can do late night.
Right.
So I think if you don't have boundaries and borderlines, or if you're letting your hair down without some sort of like guideline, like, oh, like after this week I'll tighten up, you can really get sucked into the vortex,
Right. Right.
and I don't think anything is wholly good or bad. It's how you approach it and move into it.
Mm.
And if you don't have boundaries and guidelines for your life, this world we exist in will for you. It will
Mm.
show you how to be accepted.
Wow.
It will show you, it'll tell you whatever you need to hear.
Wow.
But at the end of the day, if you're not rooted in something bigger than you, it's really easy to fly off into the wind,
Yeah.
and end up into getting sucked into the propeller of life's airplane. So I think that, for me, being in the industry, and so a lot of my childhood was the celebration of like Christmas, holidays, and all these things, and weekends, going to the island and celebrating with family, doing Sunday dinner. Like, work hard, play hard was very much how we existed. So to drink wasn't really like, as kids, you're not allowed to drink. But, I see my parents drinking, like
Right.
everyone's drinking, everyone's having a blast. It seems like a great time.
Right.
So I was serving very much then. I'd make drinks, I'd clear stuff, even prior to working in the industry. But I say both things because growing up in an area where you understand that like it's Miller time, like you deserve to like kick back, So that's kind of how I grew up, and always very much, don't let it spill into your life, but like, you drinking, being gregarious, having a great time, playing cards into the late night,
Right.
all fun and acceptable. And then growing up with this kind of vibe, but also having a father who is strict and knew what the party scene was like when he was growing up, and didn't want me to lean too much into that. But of course, me wanting to, then getting into the industry, I started working as a busser at 14. Um, and getting to work with adults and people I thought were cool, and everyone was
Right.
partying,
Right.
smoking, and drinking. I was very much immediately called into that lifestyle and really leaned into it, and so throughout my life I've always partied and kind of been known to push the limits, and
Wow.
being in the industry, different places, I'd always kind of explore a town and then fall back a little bit. When I came to Miami, I leaned into it pretty hard, and my wife wasn't too excited about it. I was going out a lot, definitely not representing myself as a kingdom man. I would like to think I was in these rooms,
Mm.
but so God has always had me be a light in the darkness, but also too, you have to know where you are on your journey, and you might just be in the darkness.
Wow.
So it's like you can only shine so bright in a room of that's obsolete of oxygen. So it's like the Lord is there,
Right.
but it's like, what are you doing there?
Right.
And I think I like to play with this idea that like, I was doing the Lord's work in these rooms, but I was not, and I think
Right.
that's the thing too, is like
Yeah.
on this path, there's going to be moments of delusions,
Wow.
and it's like, he doesn't need you to fix yourself overnight, but where are you heading towards?
Yeah.
Are you sinning more or sinning less?
Wow.
Are you conveniently articulating your day to day in a way where you feel good about it, but you know it's not right.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like the thing too in a kingdom relationship, you should be evenly yoked. There was a period of time, so I brought my wife very much to the church, and through my own ability to change habits in my life, she really saw God's hand, and things that she didn't think I'd be able to change,
Wow.
that I instantly was able to, with His guidance, and that leaned her further. Like it was almost a miracle to her.
Wow.
And that's the thing too. You never know who's watching. So the more you lean into being a soldier for Him, the more you're going to attract eyes. And that's, for me, it's the thing, like what came first, the chicken or the egg?
Mm-hmm.
The idea that like, that I realized it was time to serve Him and learning through the things. And like for me, He's always been so loving and caring and almost like allowing me to be an idiot for a very long time. But then all of a sudden, you know, He demands obedience, and it's a different program. Either get with it or don't.
Right.
You know, I'm not
Right.
protecting you from these things that you just want to keep doing and
Right.
doing. You know, so I think they call it a come to Jesus moment, where it's like, do you really want to change, or is this just you like to have
Right.
this in your narrative so you don't feel like a villain?
Right.
You
Right.
know, and I do want to change. So like, so my wife, you know, I led her to it. She got baptized, and she really started to lean into it, and our daily readings and all these things. And there was a moment when we were unevenly yoked, where she was more about it than I was. I was kind of going through the motions, and you know, I was not acting as a kingdom man. I was out quite a bit, very late, and she had a lot of grace for it at first, and I didn't acknowledge it. And then I started to feel like she was nagging and a lot of pressure, but really it's because I wasn't fulfilling my side of the bargain.
Right.
You know, what I was expected to do as a kingdom man, and just as a husband in general.
Wow.
You know, and sometimes we don't want to be the villain in the narrative, so we lie to ourselves, and we lie to our partners, or we shove this narrative down their throat, when in reality it's just like, you know, sometimes you just got to admit you've wandered a little far. And that's the thing. He uses everything.
Mm.
So it's being honest. You know, so again, the positivity thing isn't rooted in everything going right. It's just how I choose to see things. So it's like, if I want to see all of this as punishment, or, you know, I can, but in reality, He gave me a purpose, a path, and a program, and I went the opposite way, you know, and I did it daily and again and again and again. So my positivity is rooted in the fact that without Him, I am nothing. And even my meaningful relationships in my life mean nothing, you know, and those who count on me to lead them, you know, who, like you said, where am I filling up from? You know, so sometimes when we think we're living our truth, we're living a lie. And then, but we needed to, in order to feel how personal it is, right? So I think I can't champion other people through their stuff and support them and be positive for them if I'm lying about my own existence
Right.
to myself, right?
Right.
So I think when we surrender and realize that God doesn't mess with us because He likes us, but He loves us so deeply that no matter what we do, He will still. It's not our works that He loves us for. We're nothing.
Right.
It's because He chose us and we're His absolute favorite.
Wow.
And His love and capacity to love is so big that we can all be His favorite simultaneously.
Amazing.
You know, and that's what I see when I see others around me. I know that they're His favorite. So if they're not mine, that's my problem, not theirs.
Wow.
So
Wow. Joe, that's amazing. I'm sitting here going, man, you're making this really easy for me, man, making it so easy. But man, two things. I appreciate you tapping into relationship, because that's a big one in Miami. I see a lot of people with a lot of single people in Miami.
Yeah.
In big cities, I think that's
Sure.
a thing. You know, I see people with dogs. I see people that maybe don't say hi in the elevator. I might even be that person at times. You get accustomed to this whole, you know, hey, they're not going to say hi, so I'm not going to say hi. Or just, it might be this whole, everyone's living their life alone, but not alone, right? We're amongst more people than ever. And so there is distractions on how to fill that void, right? So I would say, how, for someone that's listening to you and going, well, this sounds amazing, but I'm not a believer, and I'm kind of on the fence if I even believe in God. I might, I don't even know about any of that stuff.
Yeah.
What, what would be your prescription on Joe's life to say what you think about that? And at the same time, how do you navigate in this world with distraction and temptation?
Sure.
That's a big one for me. I've had to narrow my pool of dating because I'm looking for someone that's like you're saying, equally yoked, someone that is like-minded and has the same affinity and belief in God and loves God, right? But I'm not going to rule that out just because they're not. But I don't want to make that my main focus, right? Where
Sure.
other people are trying to work it backwards, right?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of going into a rabbit hole. But my point being is, you tapped into something about relationship, and I know you work in hospitality. How does that, hospitality could be all sorts of different backgrounds,
For sure.
attractive people,
Sure.
they got to be face
Yeah.
front forward to the customer. So how do you deal with that? And you're also kind of seeing a lens of people coming in at the bar looking
Yeah.
for those things of filling those voids that I'm talking about,
Yeah.
right? So I love your perspective on that.
For sure. So my job is, in a nutshell, to charm people, to make them feel seen. To when they come off the
Mm,
elevator, I'm like, oh my God, what are we celebrating?
right.
Like, I visually am like stunned by you, So, um, and in Miami, everyone's attractive, everyone's dressed to the nines, or even in their casual outfit. I joked to someone, the Starbucks in Miami World Center, near where I work. I'll pop in there and I'll feel like a supporting actor. Like, I'll feel like an extra in a movie because I'm in
Right.
a line with 20 of the most attractive people I've ever seen,
Right. Right.
and just being a regular person. And I think that you know, a lot of these people are really cool people. Then there's a lot of people who look the part and are just performative. There's a lot of people who are really wealthy, and then a lot of people who are pretending to be wealthy. So there's real things happening, and then there's more performative and more like pretending,
Mm,
and people too cool for school.
right.
So me, I almost have to be the shot clock above the game as someone who's entertaining in the restaurant. When I walk outside of the restaurant, bringing guests in, um, it's the way I interact. It's kind of like my positivity, my smile. It's rooted in what I believe in. It's rooted in kingdom, but it's also the brand I work for. I love and believe in it. So I am not convincing. I'm not trying to like convince or trick you to coming in. I'm turning you on to it. I'm sharing something that excites me.
Right.
And so the thing is if I'm walking around interacting with people, trying to be validated or trying to like have a mirror of how important I am or how cool I am or handsome or attractive or relevant or any of these things, probably going to be very disappointed because there's not a lot that people are giving
Mm,
without you kind of having to pull it out of them, right? So it's like you have to kind of also decide what's your life like. My God has always given me a curiosity for strangers, a gift for gab, an ability to articulate myself to all different types of people, and it's too because I love the human um, experience. I love meeting people. I love meeting people who resonate with me. I love meeting people who are direct opposites and I couldn't repel anymore. I think knowing that everyone's not for you,
mm,
and maybe you're for them, maybe you're to serve them, maybe you're supposed to be the target of their rudeness so you can show them what grace looks like
wow.
so that they can soften it up.
Wow.
If you make it about you, then it's not about him. So for me, it's like, I've always been lovely and kind and joking with people and really, I guess, attracting friendship. I think that's what I wanted younger. But now it's like, I understand not turning down my volume,
Mm,
being my authentic self, but also being conscientious if you're off putting to someone. Not changing who you are, but just
right.
being courteous to those around you if you choose to be.
Wow.
That's how I like to approach it. But I used to kind of my low vibrational thing was like, I'd talk to strangers, hi, how are you? And if you ignored me, I'd be really rude back. And that is ridiculous. And it's like, and that's the thing too. When you know better, you must show better. God will leave the 99 that he has to get the sheep that is lost because he cares so much about those suffering, and that's the thing. If you're healthy enough to be able to talk and smile at people, you've got to understand that when you're talking to strangers, it's the wild, wild west. It's the jungle. You don't know who's who, and you're now tapping into other people. So you chose that. So to demand that people are lovely to you or give you what you want, that's a pipe dream. That's delusional. So if you're going to be talking to strangers, understand that the world is going through a lot, and decide whether or not they're there for you or you're there for them. And when you decide to be a servant leader, in a profession, or you decide to move that way in life, again, you're moving who you are. You're becoming less the main character and more of a director or a producer or a cameraman or someone supporting other people. So, for me, when I'm talking to people, sometimes I'll be lovely. I'll say, Joe, hi, how are you? As they walk by the restaurant. So many people are used to being soliciting. Sometimes people will just put their hand up, give me a verbal stiff arm.
Wow.
And, for me, it's remembering that I initiated this. So, like, if I'm trying to move in love, joy, and positivity, and as soon as somebody doesn't do something nice to me, I am rude to them, then I'm missing the whole thing. So I think running into people, deciding how much you want to, people don't have to greet you for you to greet them. People don't need to greet back. I just, this world we live in, God's not, this is all divinely appointed. So I have to imagine that the people God's putting me in front of, there's a reason, So if I interact and they don't resonate, then I already did my work. And again, a lot of the things that God puts us in people's lives for, we never see the result.
That's right.
It's for him. It's not that Mother Teresa wasn't looking at the papers to see how much the world valued her.
Right.
She was off to the races with joy that she got to serve the one who serves her.
Wow.
So I guess knowing who you are and showing it to the world, and letting people choose you or choose not you, and understanding the more that you're authentically yourself, you will call your tribe to you, and there's work to do, and you don't know what it is. And that's why sometimes I'll have a random thing in my head that God put on my head and my heart while I'm talking to someone, and I won't know what it means, and I'll push it away because it makes no sense in the context of the conversation. But now I'm leaning into the idea of, if something is on my head and my heart, I just say it. And, the other day that happened with me and you, and it hit something in you. And that's the thing. I can't know what's going on in your life.
Right.
I can only know the words that God is giving me, perhaps. And again, that's the thing too, with relationship with God. It's all very, spiritual interaction is different than worldly interaction. And so it's like, sometimes you might think you hear something, you might not. So it's like, the more I learn to hear his voice, the more it just feels joyous. And I try to spread it on, and I ask him, even before this moment where I'm exchanging how I feel, that I can be the voice of his word, that I can be a vessel for his blessings.
Wow.
On my own, I'm a goofball. With him, who knows? Only he does.
Right.
But knowing that the one who created me has a purpose and path for me allows me to be light and airy and not need to know the next thing. Faith, the faith, the size of a mustard seed can move a mountain. So the more you develop your faith in him allows you to, like, that's the heaviest lifting. Developing the muscle to have faith that everything is the way it's supposed to be because he created that way, and moving through. Then you can have faith that the people in front of you are there for a reason. Then you can have faith that you're in that moment for a reason. And if I'm living my truth as he's prescribed it, not as I wish it to be, as he's prescribed it, then there's nothing I can do wrong. And if someone ignores me, then maybe it's to humble me. And maybe it's, but not to dim me. So it's realizing that just because, people are going through many things, and just because I'm at a point in my life where I've experienced things and I'm now joyous even for the pain, not everyone's there, and the people that God put in my life to move me along, They showed me grace. They showed me patience. They showed me mercy. So who am I to not do that?
Yeah.
And once you start dispensing these things out, then all of a sudden the world around you becomes different, and it doesn't mean that everyone in my circle or that I walk even wants me to win, but they don't want me to lose as much as God wants me to win. So I'll be okay.
That's amazing, man. We can almost end on that
Come
mic
on.
drop right there, man. Last things I would say was, I know we're running a little. I could talk to you all day, Joe.
my
I could talk to you
favorite.
for a long
Come
time.
on.
I would say, since this podcast is about, designing your life,
Yeah.
in a way that you lead with purpose or serve with purpose,
Sure.
and then designing a life that lasts. What would be your final things to something that you either want to be known for, something you want to put out there, anything, your final message is out there to for the whole reason of this,
Yeah.
podcast that's positive?
Sure. Sometimes when you're not feeling great, helping others is the quickest way out of it. If there's something physiologically and mentally about if you have enough to give $1 to someone, then you're not broke. If you're hurting and you have the ability to help someone else who's hurting more, then there's something about all of a sudden you're stronger than you even knew. So I think at my worst, when I'm leaning on a downward or I'm approaching a downward spiral, is understanding that this, even in my deepest pain, it's not just about me. So I think love is more powerful than hate. I know that love is more powerful than hate. I know that positivity is a choice and an approach and a practice. You do not have to win at this every day. Every day is the stage for you to flex your muscles so you know how strong you are. And the kinder, lovelier, and more positive you can try to be, it's an example to others, but really it's for you. And the more that you can do kindly to others, the more you're able to know that you're strong yourself. And again, it's not yourself. You're rooted in your creator, and know that he knows that you've got it, so you've got it. So I think the power of a smile, the power of understanding that whatever you're going through might be somebody else's, the negativity you're going through might be somebody else's dream. So act accordingly as well. And if you're not sure what to do or what to say, think about what love looks like in that moment, and for self and for others. And, it's a collective we live in. We're blessed to be a part of it. This moment in time will never be again. And if you can make someone smile because you smile at them because they made you smile, then all of a sudden we have a cycle where we're all doing better.
Amazing. I'm smiling, brother. I'm
You're the
smiling.
best, brother.
I am so thrilled. I can't thank you enough for this moment in time, my
I
friend.
appreciate you, brother.
You guys, I hope you enjoyed this podcast with Joe. I'm thrilled. My cup runneth over with his friendship and just all his good stuff that he just shared. Hope you guys can join next time. Again, Franco, the podcast is about how you're going to live your life and design it for something that matters, and designing with purpose, serving with purpose, and leading with purpose, and then designing your life that makes it for something that's last. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, brother.